Well, we're excited. The game week's finally here, and certainly have great respect for University of Cincinnati. They're a really good football team, really good team, well coached, and play well in all aspects. Offense, defense, has got a good special team. So certainly glad it's at home, and I'll be ready to answer any questions you might have.
Coach, any different feelings when you woke up this morning or walked into the building? Just a different vibe with it being game week finally.
Yeah, really was. Kind of started a little bit Friday night in the kind of the mock game. You kind of feel, there's some things in life that are inevitable, and one of them is Saturday that Cincinnati's going to be here and we're going to be here, and there's going to be a whole bunch of people. And when it gets to that point, and it gets closer, it's a little surreal, like, okay, here it comes, because you have, after the season, you have 6, 7, 8 months, and then starting that week, it's getting ready to happen. So it's exciting.
That mock game, obviously, you got a lot of new players going through stuff for the first time. Any interesting or funny stories to share out of the mock game?
No. We didn't do. You guys weren't at the scrimmages, but we had 3 deep and a lot of mistakes of getting guys out there, and we didn't have any of those because we only went 1 deep. With some substitutions that we made, but no, it went pretty smooth. We also have new coaches too, so we had to kind of get them. The only thing they really haven't done at this point, new coaches haven't been in the staff meeting on Saturday mornings, before the game, kind of how we're going to play the players, what are we going to take the ball, defer, what's the wind like, all those type things that we go over, but. I think it was a little soothing for them too. It wasn't me; my pants fit, so that was a good thing.
You settled that cornerback battle at least for week 1 and for now. But what set Ladarius apart and got him that second spot?
I'm sorry. The what battle?
The cornerbacks.
The cornerbacks have we?
And what set Ladarius apart and got him that spot?
Well, I don't know that we're set there. To be perfectly honest with you, Clark, we feel like he's played the most consistent of that group, and then I think we're trying to find out exactly what we're going to do, whether it be Day or whether it be McLaughlin or whether it be Chavis. To be perfectly honest with you, we're still trying to figure that out. We obviously know they're all going to play and things of that nature, but we're still trying to figure out who's going to run out there with the ones.
And then, obviously, Brady Latham and Jaden Hazelwood are on the depth chart. Just injury update on them. Are they going to be back in practice today, tomorrow?
Yeah, we expect both of those guys to be back in practice, maybe as soon as this afternoon. But certainly we feel like they'll be ready for Saturday.
This game will be the first for Arkansas since 1980 where you're ranked and the opponent is ranked for a season opener. Do you kind of feel like there could be a little more national attention, and what it might mean to you if you're able to win the game? And
well, I think it's a big deal that SEC Nation's here. That's 1 of 3 top 25 matchups. We're on ESPN. You want that for the program. Publicity for the program, and obviously we want to be standing room only and those things, which I think we are. And but it's changed a little bit over the last couple of years. Of course, who knows what it would have been during the COVID year. I think we would have had some really good crowds. We were playing okay. We were playing a little bit better than what we might have in the past. But now the expectations are certainly high, and they're high in our building as well. But I think opening up against a top 25 program, which I think Cincinnati's higher than that even. I think they would do well in the SEC. I know that. It should have helped us in the summer, should have helped us in fall camp, understanding that, we're not playing a team that's way inferior to us. We're playing a team that's every bit as good as we are, So I think that's helped us. I hope it has.
a few weeks ago, the talk was that if things go right, that Rocket would get a certain percentage of the tailback snaps. with Dominique coming on, would that change as early as week 2 or 3, or how's Dominique, and what do you think about the running back scenario now?
Well, we have the 3 right now with Dominique getting some Indy reps. We're going to try to add to his reps today. I think we need to do some cutting with him where we're not telling him, where, in other words, go to that cone and take a right, go to this cone and take a left. I think we've got to do some things where he's catching the ball out of the backfield. I don't want him involved in possibilities of guys on the ground inside and things of that nature. Not the first day. We'll try to progress that, but somewhere he can catch the ball and have to make a move off of a defender where we're not telling him which way to go pre-snap or pre-rep, whatever that may be, and see how he does there. But I don't know if he'll be ready this week, but I sure would hope that he'd be ready by South Carolina. I don't know that. We'll know a little bit more after we see him in practice.
You were talking a minute ago about playing a top 25 team and just how that helps. Last year you had Rice and then you had your top 25 team. If you look at the contrasting getting ready for those 2 seasons, was it difficult preparing last year when so many people were talking about the game 2 versus what you're seeing
I think
this year?
it could have been, but we were coming off a 3-7 season. We're just trying to get any win we could get, and actually, you guys know we had to stop Rice on a 4th down, or we were in major trouble in the 3rd quarter last year against them. So it wasn't exactly like we really were hitting on all cylinders, in that game. So to answer your question, I don't really know. We tried to downplay the noise of Texas as much as we could last year and know that we had to beat Rice and obviously didn't do a very good job of that in the first half, especially. This year we know, nobody said a word about South Carolina. We know we've got a really, really good – they're a really good team. I mean, they really are. Only team to beat Notre Dame last year. And, I know people say that they've lost some players. Well, they played a whole bunch of them last year because they were so far ahead in a lot of their games that they got experience with their other guys. And then they brought in some nice transfers as well.
On your special teams, 2 deep, you've got an either-or at kickoff, punter, and long snapper. Can you fill us in on just what's going on at those 3 spots?
Yeah, I think it's either one guy or the other one, I think. What it says right here, it'll say either this guy or that other guy. That's kind of where we're at.
On punter, is there a chance you could use both of them?
Yeah. I trust Bauer. Fletcher can boom that sucker. I mean, he can kick it forever, punt it forever. But Bauer, I trust him. He's been good at that. So I mean, he's been good at getting the ball out of there. Cincinnati they're going to try to block punts the whole game. I mean, our past has not shown that we were very good early in the year, both years. We've had a punt blocked early. We're very aware of that, but we got to get the ball out of there as well as protect it. So I don't know what we're going to do per se right there yet.
Sam, reading up on Cincinnati, sounds like Luke Fickell's not going to name a starter.
Yeah.
And, warm-ups, obviously he knows who he's going to start, but
Yeah.
how does that impact your all's preparation? And obviously you've got an experienced guy and a young guy that's
And
maybe
so much about first games, you really don't know who's good and who's not. I mean, you don't. And it's the same. I'm talking about team-wise. And then you talk about the quarterback, and we know the 2 guys they have, so we had to be prepared for possibly what they might do different. But they had a running quarterback, a throwing quarterback, and one guy last year. You know what I mean? So you can kind of see what they would do with a runner because they ran him a lot, and you kind of see their route trees and all these things that they lost a really good receiver in 12. He was a really good receiver. The quarterback, the running back was really good. Those are 3 guys on offense they lost that were really good players. And their coordinator, I think he went to LSU maybe, but the quarterback coach is taking it over. And I think they'll be very similar. And I think they'll run more of, if this makes sense, they'll run more of what they've already ran. If it's a running quarterback, they'll run more runs with him, and if it's not, they'll probably throw the ball a little bit more and go back to their base inside-outside zone. type schemes that they've ran for years.
A quick question from Nate. I wonder if I could ask you. Luke Fickell, how well do you know him? What do you think of the job he's done there? He's a guy who's the last couple of years his name would come up
Yeah.
like when a Big Ten job opened up or Big 12, and he's obviously stayed there, and now he's taken him into the Big 12. Just what do you think about all that and the fact he stayed there?
I didn't know him. I obviously knew who he was. I met him at the AFCA banquet where they were giving out the Coach of the Year, and for whatever reason, I was one of the 5 guys, and then he won it. So we were sitting backstage talking about it, and about not that, but just visiting. He got some kids. His kids wrestle. I remember him talking to me about that, and he was a wrestler, and but he's just a really nice fella, a nice guy, and but I don't know him. I know guys who have worked with him and things of that nature, but he sure has a great reputation as a coach and as a man. I do know that, and he seemed like a really nice guy.
What do you think about the job building him up and the
Well,
fact
it's
that he's-
unbelievable. I coached at Cincinnati in 1996, and that's a blue-collar type town. I mean, Cincinnati, it's a tough, and he's got that team playing like that. They're a little scary because they have a chip on their shoulder. They're the underdog type team, and, man, they play hard and those things. And to go into Notre Dame and beat them last year, only regular season loss, and I don't know what Notre Dame did in the bowl game, but they finished 5th, and the last Notre Dame did, and they finished 5th because Cincinnati went in there and beat them, and that's hard to do for any team. So he's got them playing with great confidence, and you can tell just his demeanor, the way he leads the team, they would have a lot of confidence to him. So nobody, I don't believe nobody in college football has done what they did. So he's doing a great job, and he must really like it there because I'm sure he's had other opportunities to leave, but he hadn't, so must really like it there.
First games, you a lot of times don't really know who's good yet. So outside of depth chart questions, just what are you hoping to learn about your team from this first week?
Well, I want to be able to do some of the things that we did last year a little bit better. In other words, I want to be able to run the football. I want to be able to win first down on defense. We've got to convert 3rd and 1 in short yardages. I mean, that's things we had to get better. But as a overall team, I want to see what we have out at wideout. I want to see how much we miss Dominique Johnson. I want to see how good Drew Sanders is. I mean, there's a lot of things in there that is our D-line better than it was a year ago with losing Ridgeway and Trey Williams, and can we be better than we were? If we go multiple fronts, can we do that? Are we better with 4 guys on the line of scrimmage and taking a safety off the field, or are we better in a 3 down front? I don't know the answer right now. We've looked good doing whatever we've been doing in practice, but and then how are we going to hang on to the ball? It's a big deal. We were good last year hanging on to the football, but we have to. If you look at Cincinnati, when they break games, it's because they get turnovers, and it's on special teams, it's on everything. So for us, we should be okay because we've got all our coordinators back. We should be okay. We should be able to go out there in the first game and function and do well. Until we do it, it's kind of scary. You don't know, until you do it.
Sam, you just mentioned Drew Sanders. What are you most excited to see out of him, I guess, this weekend? And do you kind of get a sense that he's ready to go prove himself at this level?
Well, he's ready. I mean, he just never has played inside the box much. In college, he's been an edge guy, and so obviously he's taking a lot of reps inside. We feel like he's ready. I'm sure he is ready. I look for him to have a really good game. but it's a different position. Anybody's ever played linebacker, it's a much different if you're where they can block you from either direction, and when you're out on the edge and you know everything's funneling from inside out to you, a lot of difference. And those are things that he hadn't done in at least a year, and I think he's certainly ready for that.
See several freshmen in the two deep on your offensive line. I guess just what do you think that says about the potential of that group, maybe the future?
I like
position?
those guys, you know, with Chamblee and Harris and Kudus. I like those three guys. I think they're really, you know, Henderson's a little behind them, those guys right now, but I like those three. I think they're the future of our program. You know, obviously Devin Manuel's been beat up, so that kind of, and Marcus Henderson, so that kind of elevates, you know, those guys a little bit. But I've really been impressed with those three guys, and I think we'll get Devin back a little bit today, some, along with Brady. So that'll help us, you know, with that depth as well.
Cincinnati returns all five of its starting offensive
do.
line. What is your impression of that group, having your offensive line background?
Well, anytime you have them all coming back, you know, that's a good thing. Even if it's a good thing, and you know, they run the duo play about as good as anybody. They'll try to bloody your nose and come right at you. They're really good in pass protection. I don't know what happened to their coach. You know, Coach Ron Crook, good football coach, but he's since moved on, and I had a lot of respect for him, and you know, do have a lot of respect for him. But they're well coached. I'm sure they'll come in here well coached, and they play really well together. And you know, you have five like we do. We have four coming back. We feel like that's a strength of our team. I can't speak for Coach, but I'm assuming he thinks that's the strength of their team. I do, and really been impressed with their physicality.
With KJ, one of my favorite lines you said last year was when he bowed over a safety. You said, "This is all. Just show him this is all day." What's the balance though with that? Because you are thin at quarterback, but what's the balance with that? Because it's a big momentum deal when he does something like that. It excites everybody, but also stepping out of bounds because he did have to come out of a few games last year.
Well, you can't. It's hard to coach that out of a kid. I mean, it really is, because he, you know, in practice he can veer around and do all this stuff, but you can tell him, you know, we got to have you healthy, you know, and this, that, and other, and he gonna do whatever he wants to do, to be honest with you, and I think it just depends on the moment in the game. If he thinks that he needs to set the tone, then he's going to go do it, you know, whatever we tell him, to be honest with you. But he's a big guy. You know, he can handle physical tackles and things of that nature, but we're going to run him, and we're not going to change our offense, you know, from what we did before. I would like him to, you know, get on the ground a little bit more, get out of bounds some, but he says all the right things, but then Saturday he goes run over somebody, you know, so I'm not going to coach him out of being aggressive, but I am going to ask him to take care of himself.
Last year you guys cleaned up penalties in the second game. You only had 4 against Texas. You had 13 for 117 in the opener.
That's awesome. Thank you for reminding me.
I'm just speaking it out there,
Yeah,
so
I
it
know.
won't.
Is there a question behind this, or you're just trying to murder me right now?
I'm asking if you pointed that out to the players, how you guys started things off last year, because obviously you can't have 13
Not
against
yet.
Rice
I mean,
against-
we have in our scrimmages, certainly. You know, I was teasing you, by the way. I know this. If we did that again, we'd lose. And so I think we've been a little cleaner. We've been really clean with the ball. You know, I haven't thrown a lot of picks. Offensively, I'm saying. Hadn't had the ball on the ground much. And I told them after the first scrimmage, I said, you know, we're going to have a holding call. I mean, we are. That's probably going to get 2, to be honest with you. That's kind of how it is. And you're going to have, you know, you're going to have a pass interference call. That's going to happen. But the ones where you jump off sides, you know, on defense, and the ones where you legal procedure or you don't line up right, those are things that, you know, I coached high school ball. Those are things in high school that you don't see. You don't see Fayetteville High out here doing that, you know, and you might not see Fayetteville Middle School out here doing that, and then we go out there and do it. And I get it, it's anxiety and all those type things, but that's also coaching. And I believe I probably said that last year after the Rice game. You know, that's on me. But I think we'll be much better. You know, we do have a lot of guys coming back, so I think that'll help them too a little bit with a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of anxiety as well.
Coach, talking about cleaning things up, I'm curious, this week in practice, the next few days, what are some things that you'd like to see out of your team?
Just execution on offense. Just we had a really good practice Saturday morning. I mean, really good. You know, not a lot of snaps errant. You know, we don't have those with the guys that are really going to play that position right now. We do have some with, you know, guys that aren't, or, you know, right now we're with Kuda's playing. He's probably not a center, but he's playing center for us. So we've cleaned up those things. Defensively, basically it's just running the game plan, because we've had 2 days already to practice for Cincinnati, and now it's just clean up from the coaches about what we need to throw out, some things that didn't look good on on Thursday and Saturday, and just building confidence in our team, you know, and you do that by practicing well. And so if we can do that, I think we'll be fine. It's just we can't afford to have any sloppiness at practice. It's got to be bam, 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 bam. We already had a 2-day run through, basically a 2-day practice on Cincinnati. Now it's got to be, this is exactly what we're going to do, and let's go build confidence. The only way you can do that is do things well, you know.
And then the second half of last season, you didn't have Jalen Catalon. It seems like he's really become a vocal leader on that defense. How excited are you to see him get back on the field?
Very. You know, I'm excited for him, you know, too. I'm excited for the team, but that's hard on the guy who's played a lot of ball, and he's sitting out there, and we're having one of our best years since he's been here, you know, and he wasn't a on-the-field participant in 7 of the games. You know, I'm sure that's very, very hard for him. So I think you know, anytime you lose something, you know, it even becomes more special when you get it back, or you have a chance to earn it back, or whatever may be the case. But I think he's really excited to play. He's played extremely well, and you know, we'll see what happens.
You were talking about your block punt problems early in the year, the last couple of years, and not just Arkansas, but it seems like there's a lot of big special teams plays early in the season, whether it be, I guess, breakdowns most of the time. What do you think that is, that there's so many big plays early in the year on special?
Well, I think you don't really know exactly what they're going to do. You know, if you get into week 3 and 4 and 5, now you've got an idea of what they're going to do from you just have to be just base sound in special teams. Now, last year we had a punt blocked against, I think it was the first game of the year, because we just didn't block out. I mean, that we did every day in practice, you know, just something happened, you know, same guy, all that, you know what I mean. But I think a lot of that is you can really tell a lot of the new stuff that comes in, you know, because it's like pass protection. If you're sound with rules and schematics, you should be okay. You know, Georgia blocked one last year on us that we hadn't seen, but not only that, but we just weren't. That was not necessarily sound against that look, and we certainly made an adjustment. But you know, we'd like to make the adjustments before it happens. You know, where we can be able to pick that up. And so as we've been together a little bit longer, I think our big talk between Scott and I and the special teams is we just have to have a way, a mechanism to make sure that whatever they throw at us, that we, you know, if we're going to cut a guy loose, he's got to be coming from 10-2 out there, you know, and not up the middle. And of course that's easy to I mean, that's everybody knows that, but sometimes it's difficult to get done, and I think we're a lot sounder than what we were in my first 2 years here. But I'll say this: after the first 3 or 4 games, Georgia got us, but after that, we seem to be pretty sound in that aspect.
You've answered this already, but who are some of the guys on the defensive side of the ball for Cincinnati that you guys have kind of identified as impact players, or who make a
They
difference
lost
in
a
the game?
lot. They lost a lot of players from last year, really good players too. But I like they're both their linebackers, 2 and 13, and then they got a defensive end, Van, 42. That's a good player. Played a lot of ball for them last year. And then in the secondary, Bush and Hicks, their free safety in their boundary corner. Those guys are, and that's who we really know about. The rest of the guys, they lost several defensive starters and guys that went to the NFL last year. But Van played a lot of ball for them, and I really like 13. He's a Sam now, but he makes a lot of plays, makes them in open space, big guy. And, of course, they still have Bush and Hicks in the secondary, but they'll run and hit you now. They're a good team. I mean, good football team.
I was wondering if you watched any Week 0 games and if there's anything
Yeah.
that popped up that made you go, I want to revisit that with the team, or we need to double down on that. Anything like that?
I watched Wyoming and Illinois, and there wasn't really anything much came out of that. Illinois beat them pretty good, and the Nebraska game. I mean, yeah, there's some things came out of there that you go, maybe we ought to learn a little bit out here or there, but not really anything that I can think of. It's a good game though, Nebraska Northwestern. That was a really good game.
Sam, following up on offensive line, I mean, obviously experience is good anywhere, but how much does having the experience you guys have on the line, the experience they have, the cohesiveness, all that,
Yeah.
how much does that help?
Well, I think it's huge. In the first game, depends on what type of defense you're playing. I mean, if you're playing a Cincinnati that's all over the place, that run that 3-3-5, and they're going to come in gaps now. I mean, and twist and blitz and all kinds of stuff. I think it really helps you when you have an older line because you just got to really be gap sound. You have to against anybody, but a team that moves all the time and blitzes quite a bit of the time, you really have to be ready. So I'm glad we're older. They're going to get us some too. I mean, they've got good players and great scheme, but I think it's a big deal for us to be a little older. And the guys have seen a lot of ball especially with the defense that Cincinnati runs.
And on the other side of that, obviously buried multiple guy. How big a challenge is that for you all's defense?
Well, it's a big challenge because, they lost their quarterback, they lost their tailback, and they lost a really good wideout. Well, they got to transfer in from Hawaii, who's really a good player, and they've got 2 separate quarterbacks that who knows who's going to play, and not positive who the running back's going to be yet. But we do know, and they got a new coordinator, so you don't know exactly what they're going to do, but I think we've got enough defense in that we can attack whatever we see. I think the first couple series are going to be really important to figure out kind of, what they're bringing to the party. Some guys bring iced tea and some guys bring liquor, and you just got to figure out what they're bringing. I mean, go into 2-minute offense. You'll figure out what kind of party you're going to on the first play. They come after you, you're going home. Okay, this is what kind of party it's going to be. Or they'll drop 8 and you got to dink and dunk and get down in there. So the first 2 series on both sides of the ball will be a big, big thing on Saturday, in my opinion, and how fast our coaches make adjustments and how fast theirs does. I think can't wait till half. The game's halfway over at that point, so we got to really get good communication up front or up top and see what we need to see to figure all this stuff out.
One more line thing, Luke Jones obviously a new starter, but he's an experienced player. How do you feel about him fitting in with that group? And
He'll be great.
you know,
He'll be great. I'm not worried about him one bit. He'll do a really nice job. Thanks, guys.